Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Marriage Man. Today we're continuing our series on how to survive infidelity in a relationship. So today we're going to be talking through a question that I'm sure has gone through your mind, maybe through your partner's mind since this has happened, and it's this idea of should I break up, should I not break up? Should I divorce this person, should I end our relationship? And those are great questions, and I want to kind of kick around things to consider about whether or not you should stay in this relationship. So I don't know you. I don't know your situation. And so one thing I don't want to do is to say, you need to do this. Um, because that's honestly very presumptuous of me. So what I do want to do is give you some guidelines in the sense of, hey, if this is happening, you might want to think about divorce. If this is happening, you might want to think about staying together. So with that, some of the questions that typically people have is, is this the first time? Is this the first time that this person has had an affair or they've been unfaithful? If it is, then you're probably going to fit more likely in this category. No one unfaithfulness really ruins a relationship. Um, So it's more likely that you're going to be in this category of, hey, let's try to work this thing out. But if this has happened multiple times, and let me kind of clarify, because it doesn't mean that, hey, this person's had multiple affairs or this person's been unfaithful with money for years. The question is this the first time you found out? Is this the first time that your heart has been rocked and your world has just been changed by this news? Or is this like the third or fourth or fifth time that your partner has done this? And why does that make a difference? Because ultimately, in order to fix a relationship after infidelity, it takes work. It does. And if this is just your first time, if you think like a boxer and this is your first time being knocked to the ground, you can kind of get up and you can keep on going in the fight. But if you've been knocked down again and again and again, it's going to be hard for you to get up and say, oh, okay, let's do the work. And so that's the thing is if your partner, if you've only been knocked down once, you probably got some fight in you, and that makes the stay together option a little bit more likely. If you've been knocked down multiple times by your partner and you're getting tired of this, you're getting sick of this, or maybe you just got numb. I mean, this is just who he is. This is just who she is. Um, that's probably more likely you guys need to break up. You guys need to divorce because I don't see that there's probably going to. Do you feel like there's a lot of energy within you to fix it? That's kind of going to be your gauge. If you've still got energy in the fight, this is probably more likely your option. Another question to ask is your partner sorry? And I want to make a distinction because there's that old saying of, are they sorry or are they just sorry that they got caught? And what that means is that it's a lot of times like your partner may have been the one to come to you and say, hey, this is going on and I want to talk about it. That's pretty genuine repentance. If they've actually come to you and they told you about it, if you found out about it and you kind of caught them in the lie or the unfaithfulness, initially, I'll be honest with you, they're not going to feel remorse because what they're going to be feeling initially, most likely, is shame, embarrassment, guilt, anger, and that's what people kind of talk about when it's like, are you just sorry that you got caught? Now, that doesn't mean that if they're feeling all that they can't at some point begin to feel sorry, or mixed in with all those emotions, they do feel sorry. And so it might be there, but you might not see it. Or it quite honestly might not be there. But if it is there, and you know it's there, then it's more likely that you guys can work it out. You can patch it back together because there's a buy-in from your partner, as in, okay, I feel guilt, I feel maybe anger at myself, and that emotion is going to motivate them to change. Um, But if they are just feeling defensive, if they're just feeling embarrassed, and they just feel, honestly, and it may not be true, but they may feel like it's your fault. They're angry at you. That's going to be hard to convince somebody that's in that headspace to put in the work to change. I'm just saying. Doesn't mean you're next that if the sorry isn't there, then you automatically end the relationship. No, I'm just saying it's harder. It's less likely that you're going to get together unless that's there. Next thing to ask is, what is your partner doing about this? Are they trying to make things better? Part of restoring trust is transparency, honesty and transparency. And if your partner's going that extra mile to, hey, I want to talk about this. Hey, I want you to know where I am. Hey, I want you to be able to see my finances or be able to look at my phone at any time. That's a pretty good sign. That's actually a really good sign. It may not feel like it, but it is. But if your partner's not really putting in a whole lot of work, if they're either not owning their part in the problem, but they're just focusing on how you created this and how it's your fault, and there's probably some truth there, but that's not the whole truth. They also took a part in this as well, and if they're not owning that, if they're not trying to make things better, again, it doesn't mean that you have to break up with them, but it means that more work is going to be on you, and that's a shitty place to be in. That's a sucky place to be in. Just going to be honest with you, but there is still hope even in those situations. Next question is, do you have kids? It's a good question to ask because a lot of times people think that, hey, how's this going to affect our kids? And that's a good idea. And I want to tell you guys about a study that was done where they looked at how did kids perform mental health wise and academic wise, after their parents had like a rough patch in their marriage. And so there's three groups. There's the group that the parents had a rough patch, but then they got back together and they made it work. Then there was parents had a rough patch, got divorced. And then there's parents had a rough patch, didn't fix it, but stayed together for the kids. And out of those three groups, this group over here is the one that actually did worse. The ones where mom and dad said, you know what, we don't like each other, but we need to stay together for our kids. And there's probably a lot of good reasons that went into that. But ultimately, when you live in an environment as a kid where you don't see mom and dad interacting well, that sets up all sorts of stuff. For one, you don't really want to go home because kids pick up on the tension that, at any point mom could say something or dad could say something and it's just this tension and they can feel it. And so they don't relax when they come home. Also, when mom and dad aren't talking to each other and can't really get along with each other that well, that is so easy for a kid to play one parent off the other. It is so easy to divide a family that is not united. And so if you have kids, here's what I'm going to say. Get healthy, okay? Whatever that means for you, get healthy. Whether that means patching it up with your partner, whether that means breaking it up with your partner. Whatever of those two options, whichever is healthier for you, go after that. Don't be over here in this group that just says, hey, we're going to stay in this unhealthy environment because we don't want to do this to our kids. Get healthy, okay? Next question I have is, how easy is it for you to leave? Because I don't want to assume that everybody who's watching this video is from America and follows our cultural values. So this factors in. Because in America, it's fairly easy to leave. A lot of people have two jobs. There's abilities to kind of support as a single parent. But if you're in some place where it's hard for you to leave, again, going back to my original statement, it's so important that you get healthy. But if you're in a situation where it's hard for you to leave, how do you stay healthy even in that situation? Maybe that's where you have to start thinking, is how do I maintain personal and safe boundaries if I can't leave? But if you can leave, and it's healthy for you to leave, then maybe you should probably think more about divorcing or breaking up than staying. Lastly, what are your friends and family telling you to do? Hopefully, I'm not the only person you're listening to when it comes to this question. And I recognize that this is a double-edged sword, because when a marriage is having problems and you tell people, whether it's your parents, whether it's your friends, they're going to be biased. They're going to be on your side. And that may naturally mean that they are not going to be on your partner's side. So what happens if you guys do patch it up and get back together? Well, now you've got a friend or a family member that doesn't like half your partner. That's fair. And I recognize that people are kind of torn on this, in the sense of, should I tell somebody, should I not tell somebody? But if you are talking to people, what are they telling you to do? And here's the thing, is I don't want to say like their word is truth, but it's worth considering. When I went through my divorce, I got a lot of different advice from a lot of different people in both camps. Like some were, hey, stick it out. Some were, hey, no, drop her. And ultimately I had to pick. But it was good to kind of get that consensus and to get that, what are people telling me, and being able to make my own decision. But also, that's a question to ask yourself. What are people telling you? Is the overwhelming part saying you should break up? I mean, honestly, that's probably the more likely solution. But if a lot of people are telling you, look, this could work, then it's probably likely that it can work. Ideally, hopefully, if these people know who you are. So that about wraps it up for today. Hopefully that's given you some ways to think and process through all this as to whether you should stay together or break up. But go ahead, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and if you have any questions, post it in the comment below. I'll try to answer it as best I can. You guys have a good one, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.